of how can we transform and maximise access to good quality careers interventions, but how can we do it without having to look for more money? Quite a challenge. So in terms of our policy implications, there is substantial expansion of local networks. We have a shift from central to localised provision now. And so we're seeing this multiplying effect of having lots of local community programmes spreading throughout the UK. And in policy terms, what's tended to happen is that there's been an emphasis on we're going to move from centralised funding and control to more localised initiatives. And we're looking really, our government would say, for diversification to meet particular priority groups. And I think one of the main points to emphasise, which isn't on this slide, but to invite you to think about, is that our policymakers agree with the principle that access to high-quality career services should be universal, but they also want targeted provision for priority groups. And the priority groups tend to be young people who are not in education, employment, or training, adults, again, in a similar situation, young offenders, teenage mothers, looking really at groups where there need to be some prevention to stop them from falling out of the system, some strategies to recover people who have fallen out and to help them get back into education and training, and other initiatives which are about trying to integrate individuals who have been marginalised, really, in our society. And the one key factor which I would like to share with you here is that across the UK, very, very particular interest taking place on can we have a fully integrated 3 main channels delivery system. Now, what does that mean? What that means is, can we provide services to young people and adults online, either by the telephone or through a national website or other websites, where they can self-help? And many people can help themselves and don't need that support. Can we provide such services where they get some brief assistance, either on the telephone or through contact with a local area office? And then that will help us think about who gets the more intensive support, the face-to-face support, which is proven to be more costly. Though many would say, whilst it's costly, the cost savings of face-to-face interventions are actually quite significant. And I'm going to give you a few examples of that. So in England in particular, we had established what was called Learn Direct. And Learn Direct was a web and a telephone helpline service which has, over the past decade, transformed itself into a national careers advice service. Now, I might be making this sound quite simple in that we have technology, we have brief assisted or self-help or face-to-face services. But like you, our landscape is fast changing, significantly fast changing. Our coalition government has introduced new laws and new statutory responsibilities to ensure that schools, in particular, guarantee to provide impartial careers education. You may call it neutral, we call it impartial. And I mentioned this move from centralised to localised control. But one of the things in the UK over the last 5 years that has been very problematic for us is that we have in Wales, in Scotland and in Northern Ireland, we have all all-age career services. But in England, we have 2 departments where we have services for young people called connections, and we have services for adults. Now, that was under a Labour party, which is now gone, and there's a new coalition service. So as I stand in front of you today, we have a new government that says we want all age, all ability career services for everyone in England, Scotland, Northern Ireland and Wales. And I've just been working to the Minister for the Department for Children, Education and Lifelong Learning in Wales. And the Minister wants to know, is the careers service in Wales worth investing in? And if so, where's the evidence? And not only where is the evidence, what's its vision for how it's going to work in the next 3 to 5 years? And that report hasn't been published yet, but the key message really to perhaps share with you here is that when you begin to look at who's in the careers service, people work in the community, we actually counted up the number of professionals in Wales who have some sort of career specialist input. Those are people who are working who don't have master level qualifications, but who actually are working at grassroots level in the community, in the workplace, in voluntary sectors, etc. And Wales is not a very, very big country. But we were able to total up 5,000 people plus in Wales alone, trade union learning reps who work with adults in the workplace and with employers, teachers who work in schools, providing careers education, careers advisors, community specialist workers, etc. And the key message really is that we need to begin to talk about having a family of career service providers to begin to address some of the issues that Raimo highlighted, which is about everything gets into a silo. You know, somebody works here, so that doesn't really relate to what they're doing. And so what we're looking at, again in Scotland, Scotland is looking at designing what it's called the tartan blueprint. Only the Scots could call it tartan, couldn't they? But they're looking to design a blueprint of career management competencies for the people of Scotland to be able to tell the story more about how do people who are working with young people and adults find a common language to describe what they're trying to achieve. And in Northern Ireland, I've been very privileged in Northern Ireland, as someone who comes from Northern Ireland, to design high street resource centres in Northern Ireland for careers provision to complement all the excellent community provision that's there. And I've been working with Professor Jim Sampson from Florida State University. Now, one of the big issues around the policy and then the evidence is, and I want to demonstrate this to you. When we look in the United Kingdom, when we look at careers work, we find that if you look at the history, it's a little bit like ping pong or table tennis. And I listened to the news this morning, and though I couldn't understand the words, I could see the actions of table tennis, and your country has won a major competition in table tennis. I don't know if you know that, but congratulations to those of you who are enthusiastic about table tennis. But think of that notion of ping-pong table tennis, quickly batting things backwards and forwards. And that is what's been the problem for us in the United Kingdom, and I would suggest worldwide, that careers policies, 1 minute it's all about education, and then the next minute it's all about employment. Different government departments, different language, different requirements. And where we are at the present time with our new government now is a language which is about social mobility. How can we help people to progress in their learning and their work? And where are the new jobs and the new futures? And so if you're a careers professional, You're someone